The afternoon sun cast a warm, golden glow over the bustling film set, where the atmosphere was thick with anticipation and the quiet hum of creative energy. Zhang Ling stood by the edge of the courtyard, his script clutched tightly in his hand as he rehearsed his lines under his breath. For months, rumors had swirled around the production, whispering of hidden tensions and untold stories that the cast had managed to keep tightly under wraps. Yet, despite the chaotic energy of the entertainment industry, Ling remained remarkably calm, though a flicker of nervous tension danced in his dark eyes. He knew that the secret he had been carrying in his chest could no longer remain hidden from the world, and the weight of that realization was finally beginning to catch up with him. Across the studio lot, Tian Xiwei was busy touching up her makeup in her trailer, completely unaware that her own name was about to become inextricably linked to the revelation that was about to unfold. Xiwei was known for her bright, infectious smile and her fierce dedication to her craft, qualities that had won her the adoration of millions of fans across the globe. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she felt a strange shift in the air, a subtle intuition that something significant was about to shift the trajectory of their current project. Little did she know, Ling was preparing to step forward and confess a truth that involved not just his own career, but a deeply personal connection they had shared away from the flashing cameras. The director's loud voice broke through the quiet chatter of the crew, signaling that it was time for the next major scene of the day. Ling took a slow, deep breath, letting the cool air steady his racing heartbeat before he walked onto the set. The cameras rolled, capturing every nuance of his performance, but even as he delivered his scripted dialogue with practiced precision, his mind was racing a mile a minute. He realized that the fictional emotions he was portraying on screen paled in comparison to the real, raw honesty he needed to share with the cast, the crew, and ultimately, the public watching their every move. During a brief 10-minute break between setups, Ling motioned for his manager and the lead producer to step aside into a quiet corner of the soundstage. The serious expression on his face immediately silenced the usual jokes and lighthearted banter that typically filled the room during downtime. He looked down at his shoes for a brief moment, gathering the courage to speak the words that had burned behind his lips for years. When he finally looked up, his gaze was unwavering, carrying a vulnerability that completely disarmed everyone standing before him. "I can't keep carrying this alone anymore," Ling began, his voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying a profound gravity that commanded absolute silence. The producer crossed his arms, sensing the immense weight of the moment, and simply nodded for the young actor to continue. Ling explained how, long before they had ever achieved mainstream fame, his path had crossed with someone who changed the entire course of his artistic journey. That person wasn't just a casual acquaintance or a random industry colleague, but someone whose presence had silently guided his decisions through every major milestone of his rise to stardom. As Ling spoke, the name that dropped from his lips sent a shockwave through the small circle of listeners, instantly altering the reality of the room. He revealed that Tian Xiwei had been a central figure in a pact they had made years ago, a secret promise to support one another through the darkest and most grueling days of their trainee years. Back then, neither of them had any guarantees of success, facing endless auditions, harsh rejections, and the crushing loneliness of the Beijing entertainment circuit. They had leaned on each other for strength, sharing late-night instant noodles and whispered dreams of one day headlining a major drama together. The revelation shed an entirely new light on their undeniable on-screen chemistry, which had long been the subject of passionate debate among fans and critics alike. People had always assumed that their smooth interactions were merely the result of professional acting skills and careful choreography by the director. However, Linghe's confession proved that the warmth, understanding, and subtle glances they shared were rooted in a genuine, deeply bonded history that predated their fame. They had intentionally kept their past alliance a secret to protect each other from the relentless scrutiny and fabricated scandals of the tabloid media. Word of Linghe's confession traveled through the tight-knit crew with the speed of wildfire, eventually making its way to Xiwei's dressing room while she was reviewing her next scene. When her assistant rushed in with wide eyes to relay what Ling had just disclosed, Xiwei dropped her script in sheer astonishment. She had spent years guarding that exact same secret, convinced that it was a chapter of her life she would take with her to the grave. The realization that Ling had chosen this exact moment to break their silence brought a complex mixture of relief, anxiety, and profound emotional release. Xiwei immediately stood up from her chair and walked out of the trailer, her footsteps echoing sharply against the concrete as she made her way toward the main set. The crew members parted automatically as she approached, sensing the electric tension that hung between the two stars. When she finally locked eyes with Linghe across the crowded stage, all the noise of the production faded into absolute background static. There was no anger in her expression, only a quiet, understanding acknowledgement that the truth was finally out in the open where it belonged. Linghe stepped forward to meet her halfway, his shoulders dropping as the immense burden he had carried for so long began to lift away. He didn't need to apologize for speaking out, because they both knew that the timing was right and that the secrecy had simply run its course. Xiwei offered a soft, reassuring smile, breaking the heavy tension that had gripped the room just moments before. In that quiet exchange, the unspoken bond they had forged years ago in the shadows was finally validated under the bright, unforgiving lights of public truth. The director, recognizing the historic nature of the moment, wisely decided to call an extended pause in filming, allowing the two actors the space they needed to process the unfolding situation. Production assistants and makeup artists discreetly stepped back, giving the pair the privacy required for such a momentous conversation. Linghe ran a hand through his styled hair, letting out a breath that sounded like years of pent-up exhaustion finally leaving his body. He admitted to Xiwei that he felt like a massive weight had been removed from his shoulders, even though he knew the media storm outside was about to erupt. Xiwei chuckled softly, her signature bright energy returning as she crossed her arms and playfully scolded him for not warning her beforehand. She reminded him that she was never one to shy away from the truth, and that facing the public together was always better than carrying secrets alone. Their shared laughter helped to dissolve the remaining anxiety, reminding them of the resilience that had brought them from obscure, struggling unknowns to top-tier celebrities. They had survived the hardest parts of the industry side by side, and this new revelation was just another hurdle they would conquer as a team. Outside the studio gates, however, the digital world was already beginning to feel the tremors of the impending news leak. A member of the crew, unable to contain their excitement, had anonymously posted a brief hint about Linghe's major confession on a popular social media forum. Within minutes, hashtags featuring both Zhang, Linghe and Tian Xiwei began trending furiously across multiple platforms, sparking wild speculation among millions of eager fans. Netizens dissected every past interview, red carpet appearance, and behind-the-scenes video clip, searching for any hidden clues they might have missed over the years. As the notification count on their phones skyrocketed, Linghe and Xiwei sat side by side on a pair of folding chairs just outside their shared set. They scrolled through some of the more dramatic fan theories, alternating between amusement and sheer disbelief at how fast stories could morph online. Some fans worried that there was a bitter falling out, while others romanticized the secret history into a grand, epic romance script straight out of a television drama. The sheer magnitude of their collective influence became glaringly apparent as public curiosity reached an absolute fever pitch. Linghe turned to Xiwei, his expression turning serious once more as he asked her how she wanted to handle the official statement that their agencies would inevitably demand. Xiwei thought for a moment, her gaze drifting toward the horizon where the sun was beginning to dip below the city skyline. She firmly stated that honesty was always the best policy, and that they should control the narrative by sharing their authentic story directly with their supporters. She believed that their fans deserved to know the real journey of hard work and mutual support that underpinned their current success, rather than letting tabloids distort the facts. Buoyed by her confidence, Linghe nodded in agreement and immediately called his agent to arrange an impromptu, joint live broadcast for later that evening. The announcement of the upcoming live stream sent the internet into an even greater frenzy, breaking traffic records on the streaming platform within seconds of going live. Millions of viewers flooded the virtual waiting room, their screens flashing with a continuous waterfall of heart emojis, questions, and frantic comments. The pressure was immense, but both actors felt a deep sense of calm, knowing they were facing the storm together just like they used to do in the old days. When the clock struck the appointed hour, the camera flickered to life, projecting the crystal-clear images of Zhang, Linghe and Tian Xiwei seated side by side on a simple cream-colored sofa. The usual polished, ultra-formal demeanor of celebrity interviews was entirely absent, replaced instead by the relaxed, genuine aura of two old friends reconnecting. Linghe looked directly into the camera lens with a steady, sincere gaze, taking the lead to address the elephant in the room. He thanked his fans for their unwavering support over the years and gently acknowledged that it was time to share a very important part of his past. Xiwei chimed in with her trademark warmth, smiling brightly as she took over the narrative to explain how their paths had originally crossed in the freezing winter of Beijing. She painted a vivid picture of their early struggles, describing cramped rehearsal rooms, endless train rides to minor auditions, and the comfort of sharing meager meals after long days of rejection. Her storytelling was so vivid and heartfelt